What's up, Shady Squad? You already know what time it is. Back with another breakdown you don't want to miss. And it's your guy Marcus Hale stepping in with the details everybody's been whispering about, but nobody's breaking down like this. Did Claressa Shields really cut a check to Remy Ma's former friend Miss Hustle just to fire back on the exact same beat? Because let's be real, nobody was asking for that kind of move at all. This whole situation is starting to look messy, loud, and way too calculated to ignore.
Let's really keep it G, bitch. Nah, I don't gotta sneak this. Tell that hoe get in the field with the cleats fit. Weak, bitch. You know what's in store. I got receipts, bitch. Put hoes in a place. That's me doing the.
Today, we're diving straight into Remy Ma. We're talking Claressa Shields, and yeah, we're definitely talking about Miss Hustle too. This isn't just random noise. This is turning into a full-blown back and forth that's got people raising eyebrows everywhere. Now listen, if you haven't already, go stream Remy Ma's diss track Why You Effing Lying right now. Run those numbers up on every platform, YouTube, Instagram, all of it. Show support on her personal page, the On The Radar channel, and even iTunes if that's your lane. Because the critics, they came out heavy, trying to shift the narrative fast. But here's where it gets wild. It took 3 days, 3 whole days, and suddenly there's a response. And not just from anyone, but from Miss Hustle, someone nobody was even checking for in this moment. That timing feels way too convenient to ignore. And let's be honest, Claressa Shields is not shaking these accusations anytime soon. It's starting to look like this was lined up behind the scenes. Because when someone pops out like that out of nowhere, people start connecting dots real quick. Like they say, a hit dog will holler, right? And that's exactly the energy this whole situation is giving right now. So here's what went down. I decided to slide over and take a look at Claressa Shields' Instagram because all those little subliminals floating around, yeah, they were coming off real weak, real forced, like somebody reaching for attention instead of standing on something solid.
That's me doing the least, bitch. Must be fucking a new rapper, wanna rap now? Look, I know how to bait it just like a frat house. You mad now? Should've been said it to the last crowd. You all word the RuPaul, this getting dragged out. No, I don't like you. You a hater that's inspired. I ain't beefing with no bitch that gotta wait for a writer. Who you creator, bitch?
You're supposed to be a fighter, right? That's the image, that's the reputation. But instead of being direct, it's all these quiet jabs and sideways comments. Meanwhile, anytime Remy Ma is winning, anytime she's got something big going on, it's like clockwork. Something pops up trying to throw it off track. That pattern is getting hard to ignore. And let's talk about that situation with Rick Ross, because people are still side-eyeing that move. Sending a cease and desist over something that could have been handled with a simple phone call? Especially when there's history there, years of knowing each other. That didn't need to hit TMZ, didn't need to be blasted all over blogs like it was some public showdown. That made it look way more dramatic than it had to be. And the vibe this is giving? Oh, it's loud. It's screaming competition in a way that doesn't sit right. It's coming off like somebody trying way too hard to insert themselves into a situation that wasn't even theirs to begin with. That kind of move, it's being called out as one of the weakest plays in this whole mess. So boom, here's where it gets interesting. When I checked Claressa Shields' Instagram, there was a post sitting there from about 3 hours ago at that time, and yeah, it definitely added another layer to everything going on. So boom, I'm recording this, and right there on Claressa Shields' page is a post that says, BITCHESs I used to look up to, I look down on now, with a fire emoji and a speaking out loud emoji. And what is she doing? She's resharing Miss Hustle dropping a diss track on the same beat as Remy Ma, clearly trying to mirror her whole vibe and delivery. That's not subtle at all, that's loud and intentional. And right there in the caption, it's saying, call it out, Miss Hustle. So now it's not even looking like support from a distance, it's starting to feel like active participation in the mess. And apparently, Blockword TV is the platform that pushed it out there. So yeah, we're definitely about to take a listen to that in a second, because people are already reacting heavy to it.
Who you creator, bitch, Tyler? Get her retired. Should've been said you wanted smoke, would've gave you the lighter. Oh, you brave now, you wanna play now, but I won't let it slide. This ain't no playground. You getting shady on them records, think you Dre now. You used to being on your back, bitch, don't get laid down.
But let's address the bigger picture here. Claressa Shields has already been facing criticism, and people have been calling out her past behavior for a while now. There's been conversations about how she speaks on other women, especially black women, and those moments didn't just disappear. Folks remember the comments, the tone, and the energy that came with it. Then you've got that situation involving the toy drive that had people confused and upset, especially when expectations didn't line up with what actually happened. That added even more eyes to how she handles certain situations publicly. And when you stack all of that together, public fallouts, disagreements, tension with people in her circle, it creates a pattern that people are paying attention to. So now, with this situation involving Remy Ma and Miss Hustle, it's only turning the volume up even louder on everything that's already been said. Let's really talk about it. Playing the role of a loyal friend to someone like Claressa Shields did with Franchon Cruz Discern for years, only to switch up later, that kind of move doesn't go unnoticed. People remember how those relationships played out, and it raises questions every time something new happens. Then there's the situation with Layla Ali. When guidance and mentorship were right there on the table, it didn't turn into respect, it turned into tension. And that back and forth had people looking sideways, especially when it started touching on legacy conversations that didn't need to go there at all. And now this part right here, this is where it gets even messier. At one point, it seemed like Claressa was showing love to Remy Ma, even being in her DMs. But now, with everything unfolding, people are connecting dots and questioning the intentions behind all of that energy. Meanwhile, Remy Ma is still tied to Papoose, and that situation has been what it is for years. Yet, instead of stepping up directly, this move right here is what we get. Allegedly backing someone else to jump in the booth and respond instead of doing it yourself, that's what's making people talk the most. Because let's be honest, if you really had something to say, you'd say it yourself. Getting someone else involved, especially someone with history in the situation, is being seen as a calculated play instead of a confident one. That's why people are calling this out as weak, unnecessary, and just not solid. It's given avoidance, it's given indirect pressure, and it's definitely given a move that's about to get heavy criticism from all sides. So yeah, we're gonna watch it and listen to it just for background, just to see what's really being said. But let's not ignore the obvious here. This kind of move is being called weak by a lot of people watching this unfold. And here's the part that really stands out. Remy Ma wasn't even talking about Miss Hustle at all. That's what makes this whole thing feel so random and forced. There hadn't been any noise from Miss Hustle, no back and forth, nothing. The only names consistently being brought up in interviews and conversations have been Papoose and Claressa Shields. They've been the ones on this media run, mentioning Remy, speaking on the situation, keeping it in rotation. And like people keep saying, a hit dog will holler, because when you keep inserting yourself into something unprovoked, folks are going to start questioning why. Now with Claressa actively promoting this track, that's where the side eyes get even stronger, because it starts to look like more than support. It starts to feel like involvement, like you couldn't handle things directly, so you found another route to keep the noise going. And let's be real about the image here. When you carry yourself as a top-tier athlete, a champion, there's a certain way people expect you to move. This right here, a lot of viewers are saying it doesn't match that energy at all. Especially after all that talk about stepping into music, dropping tracks, and making waves. But if the music isn't catching on, and this is the move that follows, people are gonna talk. Because bringing in someone from the past, using the same beat and pushing that response heavy, it's being seen as a calculated play that's only making things louder, not stronger. This is lame, straight up. The vibe is already clear, no confusion at all. Remy Ma wasn't being subtle. She wasn't throwing little hidden shots. Those were direct hits aimed right at Papoose and Claressa Shields. Clean, wavic, and intentional. But let's keep it going, because this next part says a lot. It's funny because from how this is playing out, it really doesn't look like Remy Ma was even talking about Miss Hustle in the first place. Yet somehow, here comes a full response track after days of silence. That timing is raising eyebrows, because in rap situations like this, everybody knows if you're gonna respond, you respond fast, usually within 24 hours. That's just how it goes when it's real pressure. But this right here, it feels delayed, calculated, and put together with too much time behind the scenes. And the fact that it's Miss Hustle stepping in instead of Claressa herself, that's what's really making people talk. It's giving the impression that Claressa doesn't want to step in the booth and handle Remy Ma directly. That's the narrative people are running with right now. Then it shifts into personal territory. Now we're talking about people's past and throwing low shots. That angle right there is getting called out too, because it doesn't add strength to the argument, it just makes things look messy. And let's not rewrite history here. Remy Ma never wanted smoke with Miss Hustle. If she did, she'd have gone straight at her, no hesitation. That's how she moves. Those bars were clearly aimed at Claressa Shields and Papoose. So now the question becomes, why is someone else jumping in to take hits that weren't meant for them? That's what's got everybody confused right now. Because at this point, it's not just about the music anymore. It's about how everybody is choosing to move under pressure, and people are watching every step. Now hold on, this is where things start getting real messy. People are out here saying somebody is effing the help on behalf of Claressa Shields, but the way this is looking, it's starting to flip the narrative completely. Because now folks are asking who's really playing what role here. Let's break that down for a second. What executive experience does Papoose actually have when it comes to building a rap career at that level? What track record is there that would make someone believe he could turn Claressa into a full-blown artist, a hit maker, a chart-moving name under his brand? Those are real questions people are asking. And then it gets even crazier when you bring up the opportunities that were reportedly on the table. Turning down a major connection tied to 50 Cent Circle through Maserati Buck for something tied to Papoose and his situation? That decision right there is having people seriously confused. So now the conversation shifts completely, because when you line all of this up, people are looking around like who really made the smarter move here? And more importantly, who's actually in control of this situation? Yeah, this part of the story is raising a lot of eyebrows, and people are definitely talking. Now this is where things get even more intense. People keep throwing around this ran-through narrative, but let's slow that down and actually look at what's being said versus what's really happening, because a lot of this sounds like assumptions being pushed without full context. From what's being discussed, folks are pointing at Remy Ma's situation with Easy the Block Captain and trying to build a story around that. But even with all that talk, one thing stayed consistent. Papoose didn't go anywhere. He didn't leave, he didn't file for divorce, he didn't make any big public moves separating himself publicly. In fact, the only time things really blew up publicly was when Remy Ma herself brought it to the internet and addressed the situation head on. That's when everything shifted and people started paying closer attention. So now it raises a real question. Why is everyone so focused on Remy Ma's personal situation like this? Especially when for the most part she's been quiet, while others keep speaking on her name over and over again. That's what's making people look twice at the situation, because if someone isn't constantly speaking out but their name keeps getting brought up, it starts to feel like they're being pulled into something rather than leading it. At this point, people are asking for it to make sense, because the energy being directed at Remy Ma versus her actual response just isn't lining up for a lot of viewers right now. Overall, people are calling this move weak, and here's why. First off, there's nothing original about it. Using the same beat right after Remy Ma already set the tone, that's the first red flag. It makes it feel more like a copy than a statement. Second, why step into a situation that didn't involve you to begin with? The diss track wasn't aimed at you, the conversations happening weren't centered around you, even the talk about promo and appearances was focused on Claressa Shields, not Miss Hustle. So jumping in like this, it's making people say once again, a hit dog will holla. And that phrase keeps coming up for a reason, because when someone inserts themselves unprovoked, it starts to look like they felt hit even if no name was said. Then it shifts into another lane, age shaming and telling someone they need to retire. That angle is getting side eyes too, especially when you look at past moments, like Claressa Shields showing love to Juvenile's track with Megan Thee Stallion, a track people pointed out had similarities to Remy Ma's earlier work. So now people are asking, where is the consistency? And let's talk about the personal shots. Bringing up rumors, making claims about someone's private life, that's not landing the way some might expect, because without real proof, it just sounds like noise to a lot of listeners.
Meanwhile, people are flipping the perspective and questioning everything, because when certain narratives get pushed without backup, it starts to look less like facts and more like projection. So now the conversation isn't just about music anymore, it's about credibility, consistency, and who's really standing on solid ground in all of this. So now people are saying this whole situation was built on a false narrative from the start. Bringing up this image of a golden love while involving a married man, that's the part that's not sitting right with a lot of viewers. It's creating a disconnect between what's being presented and what people believe is actually going on behind the scenes. And then it gets even more layered. Miss Hustle was once connected to Remy Ma, and from what people remember, there were also issues between her and Claressa Shields at one point. So now folks are asking, what exactly is the real connection here, and how did all these pieces suddenly come together like this? Because when you really look at it, it's raising eyebrows, especially when this all pops off right after tension involving Papoose and Remy Ma hits the spotlight. People are trying to connect those dots, and right now it's not adding up cleanly. And this diss track? A lot of listeners are calling it delusional and all over the place, especially when it starts throwing out ghostwriting accusations. That's where things get tricky, because there have already been rumors floating around on multiple sides about who writes what. So now it just turns into a back and forth with no clear receipts. And let's not forget, that specific angle about writing credit sounded more like a shot aimed at Papoose. He's the one who publicly claimed he contributed heavily to certain records. But when you listen to Remy Ma's "You Fucking Lying," people are pointing out that his presence isn't being felt there at all. Now here's another layer people are watching closely. Using that same beat without clear confirmation? Did it get cleared properly? Because if not, that could open the door for real issues behind the scenes. And if that happens, this situation could go from messy to serious real quick. At the end of the day, the biggest takeaway people keep coming back to is this. Why push this so hard if it's not landing the way it should? Because with Claressa Shields actively promoting it, it's only bringing more attention, more scrutiny, and more criticism to the entire situation. This is what people are saying. It's given you were right there behind the scenes when all of this went down, like either you hyped Miss Hustle up to jump in or allegedly helped set it in motion because you didn't want to go at Remy Ma directly yourself. That's the narrative gaining traction right now. And let's be clear, that idea didn't just come out of nowhere. There's been talk for a minute that Claressa Shields didn't want a direct lyrical back and forth. People have been saying that, and when you look at how everything played out, it's only adding more fuel to that conversation. Then you've got Papoose being brought into it too. Folks are pointing out how he's been mostly quiet, barely stepping in and only showing up here and there. That silence, people are reading into it heavy, because in moments like this, staying low can say just as much as speaking out loud. And if the strongest response ends up being subliminals and indirect moves, people are going to question it, especially after all the talk, all the buildup, all the energy that was put out beforehand. It creates a gap between what was said and what's actually being done. And here's another point people keep bringing up. There was time, plenty of time to respond directly, to step in, to say something clear. But instead, this is what showed up. That's why some are calling it a weak return and saying it feels more like chasing attention than standing on business. Then it gets even more confusing with the back and forth in the comments. Claressa Shields showing support with emojis, Miss Hustle responding, setting boundaries about what should or shouldn't be mentioned, and people are sitting there like, wait, where did that even come from? Because at the end of the day, the biggest question still stands. How did someone who wasn't even part of the original situation end up at the center of all this noise? That's what's got everyone talking, and nobody's getting a clear answer right now. Let's get straight to it. Where in Remy Ma's track was Miss Hustle even mentioned? Point it out, because people have been listening closely and not hearing it. That's why the phrase keeps coming back, a hit dog will holler, because jumping in without being named, it starts to look like projection more than anything else. And that's the angle a lot of people are taking right now. It's coming off like clout chasing, using Remy Ma's name in a situation that didn't involve you just to get attention. And on top of that, the narrative being pushed is that Claressa Shields didn't step in herself, knowing Papoose wasn't going to directly go at his wife either. So now everything shifts to how this is being received. And the comments, they're not holding back. A lot of people are calling the move lame, unnecessary, and forced, because from their perspective, this isn't how someone at a championship level is expected to move. Then there's the bigger conversation about image and decisions. People are questioning the optics of being tied to a messy public situation, then turning around and aligning with someone connected to that same circle just to keep the noise going. That's raising serious questions of intent. And at the end of the day, this is what people are landing on. If you're going up against someone like Remy Ma, you need to come correct, direct, and strong. Bringing in someone else and pushing that response like this, a lot of listeners are saying it just didn't land.
That's why the reaction is what it is right now. For many, it's a miss, it's not hitting, and it's being dismissed just as fast as it showed up. And that's where this whole situation stands right now. A lot of noise, a lot of side moves, but not enough direct energy where it really counts. People are watching closely and every move is being picked apart in real time. Because when it comes to moments like this, how you respond says everything. At the end of the day, the audience is calling it how they see it. And right now, this just isn't hitting the way it was probably intended to. The pressure is still there, the spotlight is still on, and people are waiting to see who's really gonna step up and make it make sense. If you made it this far, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments. This is Shay Deary with Marcus Hale. Stay locked in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao!